Yes, at this point in time, we begin our conversation with our guest for this afternoon. And so, the pleasure is mine to finally be able to welcome to GEM FM and to the comfort zone, Senator Roderick St. Honorable Sinclair, good afternoon and welcome to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Raphael, and also to you, John.
What happened, cuz?
Good to see you and good to see the work that you're doing. It's very important that we have this opportunity, not just for myself, but for the broader listening public. You know, in this day and technology, we have to be very grateful for that. So thank you for that opportunity.
Before we go any further, I want to congratulate you and your being a senator. You know, I know you are very well.
Thank you.
I know you know me very well, as much as walking this Roderick Road.
And the family too. Yeah.
I'm married to your cousin. Yeah.
Right.
All right. So go ahead with Pablo. We'll link up later.
So that's the thing. That's the thing about GEM FM. GEM FM continue to bring families together, people who haven't seen each other, who haven't communicated or connected with each other in years.
Yeah.
You know, people making new connections, and so as is the relationship between myself and John Calliste and the GEM FM family. So I want to say thank you to Brother John Calliste for such an initiative.
Thank you. Welcome.
But
where are you, Raphael?
Where am I?
Yeah.
I am in Victoria. I'm in Sunset City.
Okay, good.
John Calliste is in Canada.
Okay, great, perfect.
The beauty of the technology, right?
I thought there was in Guam, my one of my favorites spot on a Saturday.
But on a Saturday, okay. Well, you see, that's the thing. I usually say I have dual citizenship when it comes to Guam and Victoria, right?
Okay.
I have dual citizenship, so you can find me either place at any given point in time. Okay. So once again, good afternoon and welcome to you, Senator Roderick St, the Senator for Agriculture, and I have to make sure I say and the fisheries, because I have already been advised that we cannot leave fisheries. All the two go hand in hand. So
and when we say agriculture, we speak about it in a broad sense. It
in the broad sense.
Also, agro-processors, all of those,
all of
that is within that space.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll be getting a bit more into that as the conversation continues. But Senator St. Clair, just give us a little background about, on who is Senator Roderick St. Clair.
Okay.
The road that you would have traveled to get to the Senate. The short version.
Yeah, the short version. Well, I would say that, agriculture, as I always say, it's within my grain as everybody else. We grew up in this business. Do the cocoa, the nutmeg, the spices, the animals. We all did that. And if we didn't do that, then something would have been wrong to you, So outside of that, though, as I say, I born in Grenada. I grew up in Ladig most of my life, and I in terms of schooling, of course this is important. I went to the Monks of Devon's RC school. That school is no longer existing now, because I guess with time, less population, and then I went to SAS. Of course, that's where I would have known some pieces of John and the rest of his family too. And then I would have traversed and go to the Institute for Further Education. That was another output from the revolution, provided good education opportunities for us. And you start looking how do you move forward in life. And as I tell folks that when I finished my A-levels, I had no work. I basically was home for almost 1 year, and I was farming, within, our parents' land and doing little agriculture and also connecting with other persons within the community. But outside of just the agriculture part, I'm no different to none of the boys you would see growing up playing cricket, football, going and fish and hunt. This is normal life, you know. We cook and eat on the blogger leaf and with a piece of stick, you know, that was our fuck. So this is the sort of life, and this is the life that we do even today. I was only last year we went fishing up in Concord. Falls that river there and my friends. So that is part of my thing, fun, having fun, doing a little bit of cooking. But that is one aspect. But in terms of the professional part, which is very important because you need to have knowledge in what you do, I would have worked with Dr. Marcel and his team out at the Produce Chemist Lab. And again, connected with agriculture. So I was exposed a lot to a lot of things, the Grenades, Papi, you should know, on the western side, doing his different, that time he used to
he was doing wines
be
and
canning a box, and maybe other people know that.
Like that.
Yeah, so I went through that space for about a year and a half with Dr. Marcel and his team, and that brought me to start seeing a lot of ideas with agriculture. Then I would have went on to the US to do further, then I would have taught in SAS for about 2 years, teaching again sciences, agriculture, and so on. And then I would have gone on to the US over in Everett, Washington. That's way over on the West Coast. And they would have learned a lot in the issue of quality management. I would have done finish a first degree over in Kansas, Wichita. And then I would have worked at the marketing board for about 20 years. So I would have been connected within an agriculture space. And that provided me a lot of opportunity to connect with a lot of persons locally, regionally, and internationally. So I would have gone to places as Singapore and China, Ethiopia, Rwanda, Mexico, Panama, and several countries, and of course, the Caribbean, where I was able to create a lot of network and able to build me as an individual. So in terms of being at the Senate level now, what it does is that it creates all of those space to better advocate and represent for farmers. This is something that outside of the Senate I've been doing by just going to meetings, lobbying, negotiating on things on behalf of the farming community. So what it's done is that it provides me a new opportunity, a different approach, but not forgetting the connections that I have had and I continue to have today and building new ones. So that is kind of, in a nutshell, where I'm at.
So you were appointed.
Well, sorry, but of course, I also manages. Of course, and right now I am the manager of the GCNA. That's important to also note in the space of time. For the last 2 years, you know, I have been there as a manager.
Okay. Now, you became the senator sometime last year, was it? When was it last year?
Yeah.
Your senator appointment
October 2019.
Was in October 2019. All right, yes, that the corona, you see, the corona year goes so fast. You see that.
And of course, we have to recognize, you know, the work of the past senators, you know, and sometimes we forget, you know, the late Bozan, you know, Dudley Andrews, who passed away earlier this year. And of course, we had Mr. Cliff Cowden, and of course, we also had my immediate predecessor, Dr. Campbell, Campbell, and he didn't finish the term. Of course, you know, the situation with him. We're still in touch. We are in contact, and I wish him well. And of course, I have now taken on the baton to make my contribution as, you know, time and have it.
Okay. So speaking of taking on the baton and making your contributions, can you enlighten us on what are the roles and responsibilities of the Senator for Agriculture and Fisheries?
Raphael, that's a very good and very pertinent question, and it's something I do when I meet with the different farmer groups and fisher folks that I've been, even just regular individuals that I've connected with. It's very important for us to understand rules, because sometimes when we misunderstand rules and responsibilities, we end up with all sort of funny things our mind. And this is a very smart tool of one, the fundamental responsibility of the function. I'm the senator. And it means that I have obligation in the parliament, in the upper house of this country's governance, to do what it takes to the best of my ability and with the support of all those that I represent, and of course, filtering out all times. That's the first obligation. And the question is, how do you go about seeking this interest? In the parliament, and this is significant. You have different instruments, you have motions, you have petitions, you have adjournment where you can speak, you have debates around times, you have different discussions. You can query things, you can participate in bills, you can introduce bills. So these are this is very important, because sometimes, as I said to a radio TV station yesterday, we stay at home and we call the radio station and we call the TV station and we write in the newspaper. And this is okay to do. But as a senator, your obligation is beyond calling a radio station. It is in the halls of the governance of the country, of the parliament, to utilize the different tools and instruments that are there. So that is the end game. To get there, though, you need to be in the connect with your constituents. So you need to be understanding what are the issues of our farmers, our fisher folks, or persons involved in flower production, in the floriculture, beekeeping, agro-process, even your consumers and other connected persons, because certain things might impact are related to without they even understanding. And putting all of this together and be able to make that lobby within the parliament one, but also in connecting with the ministers of government and the different public servants, because sometimes I make statements, and I work within the sector for over 20 years. So I would say, well, my good friend in the ministry, or the good friend over there, because these are my colleagues. They have their job to do, and I have my responsibility to do. And so they are not my enemy. And the government are the ones who has resources. What I need to understand is that this is the challenge of the farmer, of the poultry farmer, of the beekeeper, as the case may be. How can we reach across the aisle and sit down and find solutions? How can I help you get your work done? Because a lot of times, Raphael, we fail to communicate and discuss matters. And that is a major issue for me, because part of my training has to do with what is referred to as value chain development. And to do that, what it means is that connecting from the beginning to the end, to the consumer, and how do you create those relationships to cause things to happen better. And so this is a major skill that I'm bringing into this table, to able to connect across the lines. And this is very important, the lobby and the connection of the different stakeholders. Because let me tell you this, we have cases where right now farmers are saying, look, they may have an issue with, they don't have lettuce seeds, for example. That could be an issue. Or they don't know how to even organize a loan. Agro-processor called me this week and say, Mr. Sinclair, I want to be able to test my things, my products, my mangoes, because I want to do this red mango and I want to be able to get it tested. She's been talking to the lab and she having some challenge. Oh, could you help me? Now, you should say that yes, the lab should help her automatically. But at the same time, she explained this to me. I could create that representation for her. And to me, this is what also outside of the parliament that help you, because I'm on the ground I'm connected. Sometimes she wanted to connect to somebody years ago that she cannot. So this is another area of doing the role. Also, the issue of having these stakeholders, the farmers, the fishers, the process, etc., organized in a structured way, so that I could be able to have proper dialogue with them and they could have dialogue among themselves, is very critical. When they are disorganized, it's very difficult to support and to listen. And so this is a major goal that I'm trying to work on. It's a very difficult task, trust me. Because what I've found in my being here as a senator, there's a lot of images of some of these organizations, but they are not operating in its true sense. And I tell them that. And I spoke at a meeting with the Minister for Cooperative and Fisheries, Ms. Oswald, and we had a cordial discussion also at one with Minister David. And we know the challenges. The issue is that it's not to cause them, not to fight them down, but how to help. And of course, within my skill and other supporting persons, we can get them there. People say, well, you know, we like to fight down and curse one another. But there are good examples throughout this country. There's the Carrico Farmers Organization, there is the Northeast Farmers with Mr. Goodings and so on, there is the Southern Fishermen. So there is good examples, and what we have to do is to follow those. So all of this becomes part of some of what I do as a senator. And nobody, I don't have a roadmap, I don't have a book saying, senator, this is how to operate. Like a minister, they go into the government and they have ministries and mechanisms. So I have to be very on the ball. It's as I say, I operate like a sole man. I have no staff. I have not an office set up with computers and staffing. I don't have that. I operate on my own, solo. So it's difficult, but I've been doing some of this before. So I have been very happy that through lobby, the MNIB has made an office space available that is in River Road. So at least there is a space now. So I have to now see how I can lobby and get some sort of support from somewhere to at least be able to equip this office and have someone who could able to assist me in providing the sort of due support. We have never had an office before as senators. So this is the first time we at least have one made available. Someone said to me, and you know, that's conflict of interest. Brother, you have to know where your lines are. And I don't see no conflict. I see in that MNIB is an institution that has the interests of the farmers also involved. And if I can be there and we can able to provide the support for the farmers, at least we have somewhere. Who else has provided such, you know, in the last maybe 15, 20 years that senators have existed? So you have to compliment them for that. And it's a good thing for the farmers. It's not for me, it's for the farmers and for future persons who will be in such positions.
Okay, Mr. Senator, with that being said, about the various roles that you have, you mentioned earlier on about networking and networks that you have established prior to that new calling, prior to that area of responsibility. In what ways would you say that some of these networks are assisting you with what you're doing presently today?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Yes, they are. They're assisting me because when I have thoughts of process, I would connect with them. So for example, right now, the issue of the farmers organization, I've been connecting with my folks in Jamaica, in Trinidad, in Barbados, because they have a very good structure for farmers organizations, in that you have the different groups. So you may have a goat group, a fishing group, B group, as the case may be, and then all this is like almost like how the football association is structured, and you have these different organizations having a representation at a national level as an assembly, and among them they then would pick a board or something like that. So that is, but what that also, so that is a discussion that we are having and looking and see how it fits and how we can develop along that. But what I also discovered, you know, and it's going against the grain, and that's the thing about what experience does. I say I learn a lot, and I see different models, and what I discover and I have discussed that even with some of the same groupings and so on. You see, this thing called president and this and that and all of those things and vice president and those things, I discover some of these things are problems because they become positions of aspirations and not positions of execution. And so I say that if you look at CARICOM, if CARICOM was set up in such a manner, CARICOM would have finished already. Because you may end up having one country being the president or the chairman for 20 years. And the other is going to get jealous. So what do they do in CARICOM? They rotate it based on alphabetical listing. So you almost know when the time is due. And so I believe that what you need is what they refer to as an executive board. And then you use alphabetical listing to rotate the chairman. Because the chairman is a facilitator. The board is the decision maker. So this is the president and is the chairman and so on in this organization. We have to stop that and look at it in that different context. And that is just my model of suggestion, because we'll end up with these issues. And then we also have another issue that I would bring to the table, the issue of management. And so I have become the president, the vice president, the treasurer. But that's not my full occupation. Irrespective, even in clubs it happens, even in church groups it happens, because these people have their regular job, they have their family to take care of. And so the sort of service that they really need, it cannot happen. And then we put up our hands and we say, oh God, farmers and fishers and others are you need to run this thing as a business. But my God, you could see that this thing can work. It cannot work because these persons are fully involved with other things on a day-to-day basis. When can this, all businesses have full-time workers? You want a farmer to run their business, but you run it to go there in a part-time? Because the farming is part of the business, you know. It's part. So when he come home and retired in the evening, and I don't maybe the lady or whoever it is, the woman, to take care of the family, when are they having time to write minutes or to make 2 phone calls to connect with market or to call the ministry to find out? They don't have no time for that. So when I had a discussion with the minister of a corporate, I said, Minister, we have to look at this thing. And we need to utilize our money, which we have a lot of, and we generate them, we're making them anytime, to provide what I call hubs of support. I use different words, a different program, but basically you have what you call administrative hubs. So you have a group of about 5 persons, and we have the specialists in maybe in accounting, finance, in marketing, management, and this pool services will provide now this sort of administrative support for maybe 4 or 5 farmers organization in that area. Then you have another pool providing support to another. So you give this, and then they have mentors. And so they get to practice, they get to really be duly employed and not going on loan, because a lot of these persons, if there was real jobs in this country, they would not have had to be in Imani. I grew up from school, and I went and worked in the lab with Dr. Marcel. I was not Imani. I work. If there was Imani, I might have been an Imani and I would do the same damn work. So the point is that these individuals are not trying to learn skills. They have other skills. So I see no risk, really, a little risk in that model being rolled out in such manners. And then I think that the organizations can become more manageable. So, for example, in Barbados, you have the Barbados Agriculture Society. They have a management structure, and they are cooperative. And they have different groups that are represented in a similar manner that I speak. You go to Jamaica, you have the same thing. So it's you go in St. Lucia with the Bellevue Farmers Cooperative, they have the manager who runs the operation for them. You go to the GCNA, you have a manager and a team woman. You go to Cocoa, you go to Southern Fisherman, you have the same thing. So the models are there. That is all I'm saying.
How receptive have you found it to be in terms of broadening that base, which you say the models are already there, but
Yes.
how receptive have you found it to be in terms of broadening that base in order to be able to address the issue that you say
Right.
exists?
It's receptive. One, from the minister discussion, our initial discussion, we haven't followed up on that detail yet, but it's an open discussion, and I think she's open. From discussing with some of the fisher folks in particular and some of the other organizations, they also seen that suggestion is a viable one. In fact, when I spoke to one of the fisher folks in, I think his name is Craig, I think, in Sotez, the fisher folks organization. He said, boss, we tired. We don't have time to do all of these things. So this is seen as a model. We following the February 18 national consultation that we had with the fisher folks and in conjunction with the Ministry of Fisheries. I'm in connect with the groups again, the CMAS group and the fishing group. And of course, they are also seeing that model. I've seen, brother, the Northeast Farmers Organization received some grant and support from the FAO about maybe 15 years ago, 12 years ago. And they insisted that someone be hired in the office to help. But the association was operating, the Northeast Farmers, and they were up with all that. They have an executive, yes, but they all fighting to do things. But for the project, the FAO made sure that they had some money. They rent a little office because they know that this model that they have with this president and vice president thing were not able to deliver properly this stuff. So this, I think, has a good opportunity for us.
Yeah,
and so that is a challenge I have in front of me, and I'm working towards that. So what I'm working towards, brother, is that once I could get my office set up, that's one of the first mode, is to start using the office to help initiating that support to one or two organizations and start it from there, and then we can take. So at least, because sometimes some people like to see first, you have some people show me, you have people like show me first because I don't believe,
I fully appreciate the issue that you raise about people having their personal and professional responsibilities and not being able to give as much as is required in some of those community-based and NGO organizations. And as a consequence of that, they suffer. Another thing too is that in some of the instances, you end up with people who are not really fully suitable, to put it mildly, for some of these positions. As when I asked you the first question, what's the role and responsibility? People take these positions and don't have a full appreciation of what the roles and responsibilities really are. And we find that sometimes we end up with square pegs in round holes and stuff like that. What would you say, speaking of challenges, what would you say are some of the most critical issues or challenges facing farmers and fisher folk today?
Yeah. Well, off the bat, and I mean, that's the automatic. They will tell you pre-elastin is a big issue. And it's across the board, from livestock to crops to fishing. I haven't heard much about anything in floriculture, but maybe there is. I know there's a few cases even in beekeeping. So that is a big issue. I think that the government has lost grips, I think, on pre-elasticity. They have lost grips. And it's not that they maybe don't think it's important and don't think that they want to do it, but pre-elasticity is something you have to be on the ball. It's like just how we want to fight drugs, just how we want to fight the COVID, just how we want to fight the traffic guy who don't wear his seatbelt and who is speeding. Pre-elasticity is like that. And so if you ask the police in terms of the reported amount of cases, in some cases there is a lot, and a lot of people get fed up. They just don't bother. As I always say, when Minister Bola was the Minister for Agriculture, I could have seen some traction taking place. And I'll tell you why. I saw traction not only because I was the advisor to the national body for pre-elasticity, but there's a couple things happening. The resource is very important. I spoke to one corporal in Grenville in charge of the pre-elasticity a few weeks ago, and he said, I mean, the police understand, the minister understand. I said, well, we can't really understand him because any farmer loses his crop, he can understand that to provide for his family. He can understand that to buy medicine. He cannot understand that. because what we need is boots on the ground who we can see. Better we see the boots on the ground and they're not holding them than no effort is being made. Yes, you as an individual may make the sacrifice, but the state has an obligation to provide the resources. We're talking about this thing too long. So what Minister Bola did, there's a lot of vehicles in the government system. Some of them break down for bricks, and because of maybe some problem, he never fix. They might need some shocks, things like that. And so he went through, that time we had the farm machinery program going up in Maribo and the mechanics are there. And they were able to repair a lot of those vehicles so that they had a vehicle to move around. That was the first thing. And then they also, through the same Imani program, and I say we have to use the thing properly. We had about 25 to 30 something officers dispatched throughout the country. They had uniforms, they had flashlights, they had cloak, they had stuff, and they were, but what happened at some point is that some of them would have graduated and they make them royal constables, and then they graduated, some of them become corporal and stuff with the police. And so what happened? We never replaced them. And that is a major issue. And inside of that now, the few that exists, they have to go and, some of them have to go and watch traffic, they have to go and drive, they have to do something else. And so there is no vehicles now, literally no vehicles. That's why I know Pre-Delasny has no vehicles throughout the country. And there might be one person, which is like a police officer, which you're supposed to have, and maybe one or two other Pre-Delasny officers that might be there with them. So in Grenville, for example, St. Andrews, which is a big area, I still want to know how much officers we have. In fact, I have sent some questions since in December, I think it was, and I trust that the next sitting of the Senate, they have answers to provide to us that. I want to know how much Pre-Delasny officers you really have. Now, at the time of questioning, and it's almost going on 2 months now, so they could tell me today and give me an answer and say, well, it's 45, but really and truly at the time of the question was really maybe 5. So these are the type of things. So these are the two issues. We could have the law, and we know that, but the law is one angle, but we need to be able to go and monitor the fields, go and see what is happening beyond the ground, and that is a big issue. Another big issue we have is the issue of access roads. I know the current minister is committed and he has found some strategies using, different projects that may be operating in an area, and you can able to get the bulldozers to just grade the road. Because a lot of time, if you grade the road and put some teeth, this is good. When the farmers are not looking for a road.
You have to drain it first, Senator.
Yeah, well, and they drain it, and they put good drainage. Because, and that would suffice.
Senator, without continue, because I've seen numerous occasions, and even the farmers speak about it, where because proper drainage wasn't done, we grade the road, we put the teeth in, and it looked good until the rain falls.
Good point. No, good point. Very good point.
And then as the rain falls, I'm telling you, I'll get that from the farmers in St. Mark.
Right. No, good. Very good point.
Yeah.
Very good point. Very, very good point. Drainage, and sometimes again, the road just needs drainage to prevent problems from later on.
True.
So that is a big issue, and so the access to a lot of areas become very difficult. Even if they may have vehicles, to carry their produce, even to bring fertilizers or to bring inputs into the farm, it's a challenge. So that's another big challenge. Another challenge that we also face is the issue of freight. Right now, we have a big issue because we have fish to export, and the Amerijet, which is the main airline that is going out with our cargo into the US, comes, I shouldn't say when it wants, but it comes at time. Sometimes it changes the plan because maybe the economic load is not viable enough. So these are some challenges. So that's a marketing challenge. And then we also have local marketing challenge. What I would say a totally disorganized market, particularly for the fruits and vegetables, not so much the meat market per se, but the fruits and vegetables and fish. It is disorganized, meaning that there is no guaranteed market for where you would sell your product. You go out and you hope it will sell. And so we need to create a more structured way where that we could have some guaranteed market, we could have a proper market information system so we can know who has, who doesn't have. And Trinidad has a good model in the public market. They have a website where they put up all the prices from the daily postings and so on. And this is something that you see throughout the world. Now, where we have all these different apps and all of those things, this is not, to me, a very difficult thing to do. I mean, okay, let's look at a simple example. I look at for example, at GBN. I hope I could call the name here because they are different space to you. And they have this marketing mornings. They go with this cool guy doing like, it's good to have all of this discussion, but a value that can be added to that is providing maybe what is excessive, what is not excessive, what are the prices, and so on. And you don't need them to go wrong in each market. You could have one person in each market providing that sort of market information in some platform. Everybody like to be on WhatsApp and social media. You create a Facebook and they put in cabbage 50 cents, cabbage so, because each market has an administrator. So the government itself could just start by doing simple things. But you see, sometimes, Brother Raphael, we like to do everything big. And by the time you try to finish, you lose focus, things change, and oh yes, you know, this was a big plan we had. I like to deal with things in pieces. Start the way you could start, and then you develop as you go. So that is another issue. I think we also have the issue of financing is another challenge. And we will hear all of those different stories. So we need to have a little bit more organized and way for government has to play a role in terms of that, not giving away free money, but working on facilities that can make funds more available. But you see, if we have guaranteed markets and we create certain marketing systems, then financing flow can be easier because the risk become much less. I would advise technology and so on. People go say we need to do more tech. I wouldn't say that is a major challenge, and I'll tell you why. I mean, some people may have problems with what I'm saying on that. Meaning that if you ask them why technology is a challenge, oh, you know, I need to get money to be able to buy the technology. So that is what I'm saying. The issue is that not the technology. The issue is accessing it and able to have the trained personnel to manage it and so on. The technology is there. Anybody could get it. But you have to have money to get it. That's the challenge. You have to have people to manage it. And so Tom go away, Mary gets sick, and then the whole thing flop because the real fixer person not available. You know? And then we speak about the youth is another challenge because that is important. As we move forward, how do we create that sustainability? The youth. How do we get the youth involved? And I think that we are trying to push the youth in a direction that the youth and all very soon to me is going to rebel. Oh, the youth need technology. Who tell us the youth need technology? Did the youth say that? No, some will say, yes, we want technology. But all the youth didn't say they want technology because we have to understand that agriculture and fisheries is a system. It's a system. Everybody don't have to get involved in production. There is transportation services, there is business services, there is marketing services, there is management services, like, as I told you about the pool management and so on. There is propagation, there is different aspects within the whole value chain that we need to look at. So what we have to do is how do we create that space in the different parts of the different chains, of the different commodities, of the different sectors, and be able to attract persons. So a guy might be a good computer whiz. He might be a good person doing computer graphics. He could then provide website and other design services to improve the marketing system for maybe fishing or maybe for poultry. And so this is why I say we have to be careful. But to do these things, right? To do these things, and I'm speaking as a technician now, but I'm a senator. To do these things, you have to sit down. I need to get the stakeholders together. Let's speak to all the people involved in the poultry. Let us pick all the person involved in pig farming, all the person involved in beekeeping. What are the different things? Okay, most of the thing when you say beekeeping are the bee farmers. But there are many more other things to get this whole thing to market. You have to make the foundations, you have to do all of those things, you have to get packaging, you have to get labeling, you have to get marketing. Who is doing that? It's the same farmer, you know. So it come back again in the pool services, providing those interventions, and we'll see things going well. But we seem to only be operating here. And the government will say, well, the farmers, it's more than the farmers. The producing the product is just one part of it. Look at, for example, right now what is happening to the same fishing. We cannot export a lot of fish right now because of the issue with the transportation outside. Oh, we have seen so much fish is good. But what is happening to the other part? The policy, all of this part of the value chain development, the policy, the regulations, and that is where now, as a senator, I have to be looking and see now, are there any regulations, laws, enabling environment that we can speak to, petitions to help to unlock those blockages that the government itself is not even seeing, and they may not see, because the government is just one part of the whole chain. Okay. And that is a major problem. So a major problem has to do with the lack of understanding, lack of engagement of this whole value chain approach in developing our country. You know, we're supposed to be doing saltfish and fishing in brine. I mean, I know about that. I eat this thing. The amount of saltfish we import in this country is too much, you know. And we have fish that is more healthy, you know. So, of course, you don't need the government per se to do that for us, of course. But the fishermen and the fisher organization, I was speaking to Brother Searles just earlier on to the southern fishermen, and yes, it's a good idea maybe. But how do they need to make sure that there's proper marketing, we have to make sure there's proper promotion, you need to build a facility, so you need to make sure you get the concession, some financer to ensure that they're willing to give them the cash flow to build that facility, so you have to develop a business plan. Who is doing that? Do they have the capacity? No. So a good idea, we keep saying, oh, why is we not doing it? It's because the truth is, they need help. And so sometimes the government, which has the resources, not me, as I said, I don't have it, but I could understand the resources that they need to say, look, if this is one, let us put a consultant, let's put a team up to help them organize a proposal to be able to unlock this thing. But instead, what we do is that we openly say, let's see, maybe through the CBI, we'll get an investor. I mean, we'll make a big project that halfway through it, maybe never even finish. And that's why I was telling brother, I said, brother, you have to do this local, you are a local company. Don't drag your foot on it. And we have to keep lobbying and see how best it could be done. Because it could be a sad day to me for another company, another outside foreign investor to come and develop saltfish. Best we import saltfish still. However, I believe in all of these things I'm saying here, there is great opportunity for us to tap into our diaspora. Our diaspora is anxious and is willing. They want to see their country develop. They don't only want to send a little remittance to their family. They want to invest in our country. They don't only want to build a house in Grenada to come back and retire in. They want to see that they have contributed something that when they come back, they can be part of and enjoy. And so I believe that we need to have what I call a portfolio of investment opportunities. So for example, the same saltfish, for example, maybe the IDC can develop a project profile for them. And then the diaspora can shop and say, okay, this is a $500,000 project. I am Brother John Calliste. I am going to buy so much amount of shares in it. I will invest $5,000. Tom in Canada may invest such and such. And at the end of the day, we can raise these monies and build something that is local. that is Grenadian, then that to me is something that is lacking and missing. I know we started off with a diaspora desk and all of those things, but I think those things are more facilitating returning nationals and concessions for coming back than investment in our country to make it different. And it's not that our persons or folks outside don't want to do it, but the country must create the environment for it. Are we doing that? Well, I would like to see that. I don't have the power to do it.
Senator St. Clair, you know, I know Brother John sitting there and he listening to you with that point that you just made there. And he's saying, boy, look at that. We just be discussing the same thing on Talking Point and on Comfort Zone right here on Gem FM. That's an issue that we've been discussing up to last week. That was the subject of conversation right here on Gem FM. How do we get the diaspora to be more directly involved in the development of income-generating projects and programs in this country? That's a conversation that we've started, and I'm really hoping that something concrete can come out of it. I'm expecting sometime during the course of the month that coming to have certain people from the diaspora. Mr. Eugene Posu has agreed to join us again to continue that conversation. Is a conversation that we started in January of this year. But
I think John wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was saying.
John.
Pablo. I mean, hold on. I know what's happening here. My phone does pick up the volume. Here. But what I'm saying too, I just wanted to say that because Pablo, early this year has, and he showed the comfort zone, has taken initiative to invite the relevant persons from the diaspora to talk about such an initiative. We said that last night on the show also, and I said this morning again. All it takes is 1 million of Grenadians living abroad give out $1 a month, and that's $1 million right there. If every Grenadian in the diaspora could give out $1, right? We have a brother in Guapo up there who said he could employ 300 people plus 150 part-time workers. He needed $25,000, brother. He went to the bank, and the bank turned him down. For $25,000, we could raise that. Okay, you know, how just like I was saying, Roderick, as a senator, I would encourage you to probably pull some people together as we have here to work with Gem FM. We want to do that. I'm in for that. I am totally 100% behind such an initiative to help farmers and people in Grenada who in the industries to develop the industry and get the financing they need. We don't need, like you said, it would be embarrassing for a foreign investor to come and do South fish and go. I think that's what I said to Pablo. Go have enough fish to can fish, smoke herring, red herring, sardine, everything could be done in Guava.
Yeah.
But what we need, we have the idea like Back Stalin say, keep the bread and run the head. We right now we had the head, we need the bread. We need the money now. You know what I mean? So the whole idea of keep the head and run the bread, we had the head now. We want the bread. Show me the money now. So we could get people. Cause a lot of ideas in Grenada. When I listen to, look, you had 12 industries. Miss Naya Compton, right?
Yes.
With the Grenada box. 12 different manufacturers on the island, right? Then we have an assistant in New York who doing something called Spice Isle Flavors. She might need some more help to further advance her industry, even within the diaspora, you know. So how could we help people here who want to produce Grenadian product in North America as well? You know what I mean? So we could have that whole global thing, you know, with Grenadian Global. You know what I mean? Helping each other. I think that's a good initiative. Let us start it. We started here already on Gem FM, just asking people to put it together to actually solidify the thing and get working.
Okay, so and what I would say also in that connect, because someone gave me a thought process about a month ago, and the idea was, how do we have what we call well, because I'm agriculture, I was gonna be biased there. As an agriculture investment forum, where we look and see what are some of the key areas for investment, how can we develop those different portfolios, and the sort of financing, etc. And then how do we incorporate now the different diaspora and other financing mechanism that persons can then buy shares, etc., into those different business models, etc.
Right.
So that is something that I'm committed to. And I mean, senator or no senator, it doesn't matter. It's something that I would, because this is part of agricultural development. And along with yourself there, I think that we can find a mechanism. I sure there are other persons outside there with the technical skills, and we can have a forum that can be virtual, somewhat, I would say, to be involved diaspora connection within that mix, and get some local presenters to see in Grenada right now, what are some of the investment opportunities that we see that could address, unlock key things that is happening in the country,
Right.
And we target it, we invest, and we find ways for it to get your return on investment. There must be a return on investment. It's not free money.
Right.
You invest, if it's $2,000, and you expect to have some shareholding, and we provide the business support services and all those things to those industries. I believe that, of course, again, irrespective of the mechanism, government enabling environment would be key for that. But of course, as any business, you don't have to seek government approval. Can I start a business? No, you start a business.
Yeah.
So I am ready, and I think we take it from here, right? I know how to find you, and you know how to find me.
Amen.
And others listening can connect with us.
Right.
Yes, Senator.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying really good. I love the idea. I mean, I was saying his family is this radio station is Bell idea. That's your family. So that's where you come from. You sit in a family platform. Yeah, so
Wow.
that don't fall, the apple don't fall from the tree here. And I say she make me who I am today, even though she's not here with us today. God rest her soul.
Yes.
She was since going to secondary junior sec, we wanted to do a magazine on a radio, and she was talking about it, and she wanted to be that. So here I am, many years later, living the dream.
Wow.
So everything is possible. Like Raphael was saying this morning, from the opening statement, we had your thoughts, the power of your thought, the imagination, the dream that you conceive in your mind. You could give birth to it. Once you don't go to abortionist with your dream, it could give it life. What we're saying here tonight is a conception now take place.
Yes.
It's just bringing to the right people, to help nurture it and make sure that you go through the term to make sure you give birth to it. So
Yes.
you have during pregnancy, women have different trimesters. This will have to go through certain trimesters.
Yes.
As you go through trimesters, you have to talk to the right doctor, the right nurse, the right set of people in place to make sure that the birth take place effectively.
True.
It's a work in progress, and I will, with Raphael on my side and many other persons and yourself, we could do that. We could have that happening. And
I agree. I agree.
Because something we often talk about here on comfort zone, Raphael, something we always talk. Raphael always bring the relevant persons. I mean, Raphael been doing a tremendous job bringing the right set of people here. I mean, to me, Raphael is a diamond in the rough. When I say I found my diamond, I found a diamond.
Right. Yes.
He's a diamond, and you want to associate yourself with people like that, For you to grow, you must associate people your level and above.
Good. And you're right. You're very right.
And that's where I'm at. And again, thank you, Raphael. Go ahead. It's not my show.
Anyway, and I'm not the subject of the conversation here this afternoon, really.
Yes.
The subject of the conversation is farming.
Yes.
So, Mr. Senator, you spoke about the critical issues and challenging facing farmers and fisher folk, and I know there are many more, but I know there's likely to be others. But and you mentioned about the stakeholders, and you mentioned about policies, government policies, right? The enabling policies from government that is required. We into just a few months of a new budgetary cycle. Have you found the allocations and the focus of government coming out of the last budget presentation, the budget presentation for this period, have you found it to be appropriate in addressing some of those challenges and and dealing with the whole issue of agriculture and fisheries going forward?
Yeah, but I mean, it's a question that comes up every time, and the debate is, oh, agriculture don't get enough, and they don't get enough. And I sometimes run off the grid, and I say, look, and if you listen to my budget presentation contribution, I would have said the contribution during the budget debate, I would say, look, I understand. I'm an understanding person. This is what we have, and this is what we would have had. The question is, have we really used it? And have we really done justice with what we have? And if you're not using it and executing it and demanding more, and every time you only 10% is used and 40% is used, then what is going to happen is that the next time you go get less, all you're going to get for, hopefully, maybe is to pay salaries. And if somebody go, then you don't even replace them. But other than that, we're just going to give you money just to keep turning over, because you're not executing, using up all the monies allocated that you planned, because you asked for the money. Yeah? So I need money in agriculture to do this. Yet still, at the end of the year, you only did half. And if there was any money available, then that money will be used to go in other places. And then we say, where the money gone? And we money go here and money go here. And that is a big issue. So I am firstly saying, let us use wisely, properly, what was allocated. Now, there's another discussion that says, well, when you add the feeder roads and all of those other things to it, it's actually about 40-something or 50-something million. I say, okay, fine, no problem. I buy all of that. And then you could get through the Agricom project and the SIAP project and so on, and the other type of projects, and I'm okay with that. I'm really okay with that. The question is, are we using what we have wisely? And that is my concern. So, for example, I have tabled through a motion for the next Senate. The next debate, the next meeting of the Senate, I have a motion to deal with the whole issue of implementation. In that, when you say that you need $10,000, I want $250,000 to do something in the budget, it means that you plan to do something. We would have debated in December, we'd have contributed, and of course, everybody knows the history is there, that the expenditures or revenue and so on has been passed in December. Pass, sign off thing, Governor General stamp, budget good to go, January 1st. So, for example, when I go to the Ministry of Agriculture and I look at one item, which is very critical, the Chief Technical Officer, which is the main technical person that's supposed to be there providing the technical agricultural issues, not the PS. The PS is management and administration. The technical things of agriculture, so that the farmers and fishers, well, of course, not in fisheries, but in agriculture part. Because the fisheries, there are two different ministries now, with Ms. Bain Oxford and Minister David. In the agriculture part, since the person who was holding that position retired sometime in October, sometime last year, that position is still vacant. It was catered for in the budget. The budget has been passed, and 3 months has passed, and that position is not yet filled. So I am very concerned about the Minister of Agriculture and the sort of service that you're able to provide in a strategic way. Yes, he might be on the ground and he connecting and he all of those things, and he's doing some work there. But the whole strategic approach and direction of the ministry, I'm concerned, because you cannot run that ministry without your Chief Technical Officer. In fact, what worried me is when I realized that the Minister of Agriculture is a trained liar. Yet still you have recently an advisor was hired by the government to advise a long-standing politician, the Prime Minister, who have been there almost 30 years, well experienced. When the Minister of Agriculture really need somebody badly, he's bleeding. So the question is, was that a good choice? I'm not saying you don't need. I don't know why I'm not into this type of business. But the point is that, to me, if my shoes start busting a hole in it, and I realize I need to be walking, and I realize water go through my shoes bottom, I know I need to either fix the shoes or buy new shoes. I wouldn't want to buy a new shirt. Even if I use shirt. So the bottom line I'm trying to make is that we have to look at where the priorities are. So if agriculture is a priority, then why we cannot arm the minister for agriculture with what he needs so that he can get the work done? I'm very worried about that. Okay. And we don't even speak about the pre-larceny issue, which we spoke about earlier, where they have challenges. So that is my aspect. And I say this further, Brother Raphael, that we have now, agriculture, I would say, is the hot spot. After the COVID and all of this thing going on, which Ministry of Health is doing a good job. I compliment that all the time. We have agriculture as a hot spot in the Grenadian economy. Because as it stands right now, is the only real place that you could get good foreign exchange from, fishing and other things. So the Minister for Agriculture is in the epicenter, if that's the legal word, is in the middle of it. You have issues dealing with poultry and feed, to deal with import substitution with poultry business. We have source of issues I know he's dealing with. We have pre-larceny issues we're dealing with. He had his field, but yet still, he doesn't have a chief technical, which is his captain. I am worried about that. And I worried about that because the chief technical officer would be taking things as that national plan that Mr. Fitzroy James have developed sometime in 2015, National Agriculture Plan, that the CARICOM, I think, would have helped support it. A lovely document. He provided all the 5 strategic areas that the government should be focusing on. But in 2021, so I don't know how much of this plan has been implemented, where they are with it, how much a part of this plan is really integrated in the budget. Because if you have a budget, the budget should be kind of linking back to that 2015 items on that plan. So it's something that I also would be looking at in the next coming weeks to see, did the budget really link to any part to this plan that was funded to support the agriculture sector? Because if you have a plan, you have a plan to build a house, you give the contractor the plan, but when you come back, instead of 3 stories, maybe you don't even see no stories. You might see some steps, you might see a gate, you may see some pillars, and what the hell went wrong? Well, the point is, you didn't really have a proper technical person working to read the plan. And that's what the chief technical officer is. The man to read the plan, to help you implement the plans, to help you write for more funding and to organize technical element. This is a big, big, big issue. I pray that this matter be resolved urgently, seriously.
Okay. Okay. I would hope so too, because from what you're saying there, it is very likely that many of the things that's supposed to be addressed, many of the issues that should be addressed based on what you have outlined here would not be implemented. And you say there is that issue with implementation. What do you think are some of the major challenges when it comes to implementation? Because that seems to be something across the board and not restricted to the agricultural sector.
Well, I have a motion, as I said before Parliament, to address this issue on implementation. And certain motions around that. So I don't want to be going into too much of my discussion for tactical purposes.
Okay.
But I mean, for the debate purposes, I mean, I could tell you, but I will tell you in a broad way.
Okay.
I mean, because even if there was a chief technical officer, I mean, other ministries have them. It's an issue. No, and I read there, particularly because it's been kind of banded around in certain ways that, you know, implementation has a lot to do with those projects that are dealing with infrastructure and procurement and all of these type of things. But that is not true, because here we don't have, well, I mean, maybe you could say procurement in truth of a chief technical officer is a procurement process, but you could win that argument and that ground. But in terms of those high-level procurement issues, in terms of the bidding process and all of these things, and I mean, in construction, a lot more sophisticated. But this is not the case with it. And I was speaking again to Brother Saul today, and he was concerned. I speak to other fishermen, and they were concerned, and other farmers in implementation. And what I will tell you that I am discovering, it's all about management. It's a management issue. And it's a management decision-making issue, a management monitoring issue, and it's a management no playing games issue. So if you have your things set out, you have your plan, and also realistic. So if we say we go do this, can we really do this? Okay, yes, we can. But then when do we plan to do it? And when you look at the budget doesn't tell us when anything is going to happen. It just tells us that the budget of the activities for the year. I want to see when you plan to do those things. So maybe I'm complaining about there's no chief technical officer, but maybe the plan really is for the third quarter of the year, and I just kind of a little bit too trigger happy and want to see that. No, maybe that's a plan. I don't know. Okay, so it's not that we don't have, and in some cases, and I'm still not saying in some cases because we don't have the competent people. And people will say, well, if it's that poor management, it's poor competence. I think that people don't care, and there is nobody being held responsible for things, and it's just a kind of laissez-faire-ness is what I'm seeing. And if you try to push too much of work, maybe no, you can't push too much of work. And then there is another issue of coordination. That's another big issue. Lack of coordination, so that you plan to do something, but there are many other things happening. So you have to go to a training. Oh, there's a workshop and another meeting. So when you plan your schedule to do certain things, it just cannot happen because other things take priority. Okay, so for example, right now, and it come back to the implementation again. You want to have a training, for example, to build capacity of farmers, for example. I want to have some workshop. That's a simple activity. But when I check it out, we could only send 2 persons because this other person has to go here, that person has to go here, this person has to go here. That affects everything. Another major issue I want to raise, the big problem in the Ministry of Agriculture, it has to do with our extension service. And I cannot go without saying that. Since 2004, Ivan, I think some temporary extension officers was brought in and so on. And most of them are there even today as temporary contract workers. And only about 2 years ago, they are going through some training at the TAMCC to become certified extension officers. But 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, we know that some of our established extension officers weren't going to leave the work based on retirement. We know that. They're not news. I mean, and one thing I must say, the current PS of agriculture is, I mean, he's a trained human resource specialist. And since he came in, and we keep saying this thing of we need to have succession planning. And maybe he just was saying that and he wanted to see it happen. And again, it never happened until everybody gone. And it's still now, the people still don't finish training yet. So you're in a deficit. So farmers now go out to be catching the hell for good service, maybe till the next 6-7 months when they finish the training. Maybe less, something like that. I don't have the details, but they have been in deficit of training. So the thing about why things are happening is not sometimes because he doesn't even have money. There's cases where, okay, based on government cash flow, those to me, I could try and understand those things. But when it comes because of we plan things badly, I don't think we could able to account to our farmers for that, and we will be monitoring that very closely.
Okay. Going forward, we know that we're in the COVID-19 period, and you did very early in the game when you started this, when you took on this new responsibility, you did appreciate government's role in this whole scenario. What can you say have been some of the outcomes for agriculture as it relates to this COVID-19? Because I don't think, while it's brought its challenges, while it's brought certain difficulties, I'm certain that coming out of that, there's some light at the end of the tunnel, or there's some opportunities that would have come about as a consequence of that.
Yes, I mean, in the whole COVID thing, of course, I mean, from where I sit, I mean, I understand, I mean, government challenges. I mean, I don't have the details of the different mechanism, but as someone working within that space, I understand. But at the same time, understanding doesn't mean we cannot fight to get things done better and quicker and so on. Understanding doesn't mean, well, go ahead and do what you're doing still. Doesn't analyze it for that. So we have to understand that part. I would say the government would have made its different contributions. I mean, for example, it would have made a contribution, stimulus package to different sectors. I know the fishing sector still complains that they're still waiting to see their stimulus package. The poultry, I know they had their challenges within stimulus package, whereas the hotel sectors and other would have gotten the different unemployment benefits and so on. Which brings to a point of one of the outcomes that is coming out very clear is that the government is saying, look, you need to be registered through NIS system and so on, so that you could better able to monitor and have transparency and accountability. This I agree with and I support fully. And it's a good thing for our farmers, our fisher folks and all employed like that to really be registered, and because it's good for them, it's good for their family and everybody down the road. So this is an appeal I made even when we had that consultation with fishers. Please, and I know P.S. Stevens, other fisheries said that they are working on something right now to see how they can get that organized. And I fully support and endorse that, and I really want to see something happen there. So this is good. You also had the issue of the cocoa and the nutmeg receiving grant support, which is really critical. And of course, the loans, they are pending. So hopefully those going to be happening very soon from the government. And so that is from one end. But I think there's some other things that we have to look at. The issue of farmers having access to their farms during those COVID time and so on, and even maybe during a natural disaster downstream, we have to look and see how do we coordinate on those things better moving forward. So we should have a plan, even now, planning, how do we deal with type of things like that down the road? We don't have to wait for it to happen again. And we will see when we had World Cup cricket in Grenada, the police today, you can see how they organize traffic and all those things, and all the response systems has been, you could see a lot of it is coming from the learnings that they would have had from World Cup cricket. So we have to use those applications. I think what has also come out from that, Raphael, is that he created a new breed of entrepreneurs. A lot of individuals now who are out of jobs are going back, who are doing the baking, who are going to the farming, who are doing virtual, who doing more online marketing, who doing delivery services within the agriculture system. So before you used to have to go and shop, but they will take your orders and deliver to you. So this is a whole new dynamics that has come about, and it is good for this country because it shows that people can easily adapt. It shows the creativity of our persons in Grenada, and we're not really that dumb as might be left to see. But what it also brought to us is that it shows, Raphael and Brother John, that no matter what, we must be able to continue to feed ourselves. We must be able to have that food security. We must be able to have enough protein and carbohydrates and other foods to feed our people. And this, I think, is a major area we need to look at, because we are fortunate that boats and other things were able to move between the countries, even if people was not moving. But the point may come when those cannot even move at all. What do we do? I remember as a young boy growing up, and what was referred to as a crisis. And I know you all are bigger than me, so I know you all go through that. So I experienced that. I understood what it meant. I understood that the resilience of our foreparents, grandmothers, and fathers then is not like the resilience of this new generation, you know? So that is another learning. I think also it gives us a chance to start finding our own selves. We spend more time with the family, more time with the friends, more time with, because of the restrictions in movement, you spend less time, because for example, maybe some person might be out whole night fetting and liming and going here, and now with this whole way of life, we tend to be more measured in how we operate. Of course, why I say this, there are many other businesses that are affected, you know, by these small businesses who depend on the social life and so on. And we have to figure out how best do we facilitate them, because if money is not moving and the system is not working, agriculture will still fail. Our fishers, they have their life to live. Other things become more expensive. They have the children to send to school, but they have to get food for them. When they maybe before could have depend on the tuck shop or depend on something, now they have to hustle to do that and prepare before they go to work and so on. So these are just some of my thoughts. But I think the government need to continue head fast. I think the issue of the vaccine has been discussed, and so on. My position is I have taken the first shot already, and my position is, and this is a personal choice. The Labour senator would have made his declaration, which is there must be discussion with the workplace, discussion, let people understand what they are doing. And it may sound like a stupid statement about trying to say, well, you know, discuss. You know, before you do any major surgery, or do you take any injection, the doctor say, are you allergic to penicillin? You have a conversation. So sometimes we must put things in context, and not just leave things open and say, well, what is the point? This is the context. Knowledge and information is very key.
Okay. We see that the poultry, excuse me, the poultry industry and our poultry product has been a major subject of conversation in terms of the amount of money that we spend in foreign exchange, bringing in poultry and so. And we saw that coming to the end of last year, just coming into Christmas time, that Belize started importing chicken from Belize. And you are on record as saying that you were frightened by that development. And we see that in recent times also, because of the increase in feed and so on, the poultry farmers have been forced to raise their prices, I should say. What is your take on the situation with regards to our poultry industry, and what are the prospects for it? And what role do you see yourself playing as the Senator for Agriculture in terms of getting the poultry policy to be functional and operational for the benefit of our poultry farmers?
Yeah, well, it's a very, very good direction. Of course, yeah. I mean, when we have bellies import, I mean, not saying no bellies you cannot come, but the point is that because we are in one open market space within CARICOM, but at the same time, the question is, what have you done? Are we doing enough so that at least we're giving our local consumers a fair option? You know, a fair option, meaning that have we done sufficient to give them a fair option at an affordable price? And can government do more? And can farmers do more based on the practices and husbandry and all of those things? Now, the poultry situation, we understand the import bill and all of those things. I think we speak a lot about that, close to about $40 million worth of chicken imported into the country. Now, there are a few things I would hit up the bat quickly. We have a case where the frozen chicken attracts a VAT, I think it's about 15%. So if I give if you buy frozen chicken, whether it's imported or local, you have a VAT. So that also escalates the price to the consumer. So this is something that in the midst of all of this, that government need to look at. And this is an advocate I've been making in recent times. What we have done, what I've done since that matter has been raised, and I had different consultation with the poultry folks, is that I've had actually before this has even happened, as part of a series of questions I would have submitted to the government, way back in December, I think it was, and in the last sitting in January, they say, well, we haven't had the answers yet. Is to deal with the poultry policy. I want to know where it's at, what have you implemented so far, etc. So that is on the table. So I already want to know. Tell me where you are, because I really don't know. The country doesn't know. Give us a status update. So that is one aspect. The second aspect is that I've had a petition that I would have submitted in late February, I think early February, late February, sometime in February. But we had it out since ending of January, going around to farmers. Farmers are saying, look, we want to petition the government to make feed more affordable. And so that petition went around. It was brought to me. I tabled it to the clerk of the parliament. So that is something to be tabled. And basically petitioning the government saying, farmers are speaking. That is one aspect. But also I've been having dialogue within the Association of the Poultry. They need to get the act also going and be more organized. And it's a very clear statement I'm making to the association. We need to have it functioning much more functioning. We also had dialogue with the Minister for Agriculture and of course the Chief Veterinary Officer, the PS. We had the meetings even with trade, looking at this whole issue, the increase in prices and what can be done. And as I alluded to them is that, look, if this is a price control item, the question is, the government must give approval for the different rates to be changed. And if we're raising that now, there was changes in the past. I want to find out from you, the government, how was that changes done before? Was it done, the agro just change the price on the own and you hear it change? Or did you approve it before? And if so, what was the mechanism? But it seems right now that we're trying to figure out how to even go about doing this. And it's amazing because we have the technocrats in the ministry. Most of them are still there. Some of them was there before. Our current Minister for Foreign Affairs, he rise through the ranks in the Ministry of Trade. So he must have a lot of ideas about that. Some of the old staff are still, staff through the years are still within there. So I want to find out, what does the process followed before? When last a change took place before now? And what makes this change here so much that we really don't know how to handle it? And that is separate and apart to the review of the agreement. Because what we're saying is that we need to review the agreement. It's not about the monopoly. And I'm going there. Let us review the agreement and let us see how the agreement is being kept to able to improve our poultry industry. And not only poultry, because we have pig and other parts of the livestock that depend on feed from the agro also. So how do we look at it? You know, it's not about saying Caribbean agro close down and leave this country. We are not a hostile country of resting in investors, and that is not. It's about how do we work together and make it better. And this is what we want to see. And so I trust that government will really act swiftly and not just we waiting on a report next year, because we'd have to agitate some other mechanisms going forward on that matter. It's not about closing on agro, so agro should have no fear about that. And I am also open to have a dialogue. But why I haven't personally engaged in Caribbean agro yet is that the agreement is between the government and the Caribbean agro. And I must respect that, irrespective. And they have agreed to have a consultation with the Caribbean agro. So you need to give them space. You don't just say, okay, 2 weeks ago, I don't get the answer. Oh God, government wasting time. Negotiation takes a while, but we cannot wait too long because a lot of the farmers are hurting in the poultry. Some of them are going to go out of business. In fact, last year, January, we imported about 45,000 day-old chicks. Now, in January, I think it's about 1,500. And with all of this increase in prices, a lot of persons going to go out of business. So just now, we might have to import more chicken in this country. And even if we have this new investment that are taking place, they will also suffer from these challenges. So not because we feel, oh, they are big investors and so on, leave them let they stand, they could withstand it. No, we have to look at the thing in a broader aspect. And then we have to look and see, we had this waste to protein initiative that was going there before. That plant there are some challenges between the different operators. I've been speaking to the parties, and I trust that we can really find some common grounds to have this done for the greater good of Grenada. Because when I speak to many of the farmers who use the feed from that output, it was very good results. It wasn't a substitute to the agro, but it was a complement because it was high in protein content. So it was able to mix in different ratios and so on. So I am still on the ball with that, even if you may not hear me vocally speaking out. It's my intention, as I agitate to the president of the poultry, I want to have a meeting with the poultry farmers. Let us sit down and discuss the way forward and get things back up and running. And we need to act on that swiftly, because we need to manage the governance of that association. Otherwise, we'll be ridiculed. And then we cannot add no common voice, proper voice to the system. And I mean, this is and my position on this matter is very well known. And I'm saying it here because I really do believe, as I said, to all organizations that I've spoken to, we need to come clean, and we need to do things properly, because I am not exposing myself publicly to any ridicule by standing up and saying things that is not fully compliant. Meaning that if the organization need to fix, let's fix it and let's move forward. And people must know that we have challenges, and nothing is wrong with that, But let's fix what we have to do.
Okay. Speaking about working collectively and addressing such issues, and speaking about your position on particular issue is very well known. Another issue that is very well known is that early in January, you made a call for amendments to the Cooperative Society Act.
Correct,
to
yes.
reduce the number of persons required to form a cooperative, and for the creation of administrative hubs, which you mentioned earlier on,
correct,
to help cooperatives maximize on their investments.
yes.
Now, what is your reason for advocating on that issue, considering the fact that a gentleman who is a lead, who is a very senior trade unionist, has come out really in opposition to that position? Okay. What is your rationale?
That is, I mean, that is fair. As individuals, we have to have our own views and positions, and must be rational and sound. And that is the thing about age. Age and functioning gives us a lot of knowledge, which we transfer to wisdom. And it's very clear. It's very clear to us that this 13 and 11, how much members, a lot of cooperatives, a lot of individuals who try to form cooperatives already. I know they had to fight to tag along a few individuals extra that they had to fight just to get a name on, to able to sign up, to meet the requirement. I know that personally. I know that from in several instances. So that is a big issue. So what you find happening, what we have to understand what a cooperative is. A cooperative is much different to a private business, where one man or two persons create shares and so. A cooperative is the one to cooperate, to collective, to be common, to be of one, to be have a certain line. It doesn't mean that they don't have different dynamics of thought, but there must be that sort of commonality. And so sometimes to find 11 in small communities as ours is difficult. And what you discover, my brother, is that some cooperative right now, if you go and check them, you might realize based on active membership, they're not even a proper cooperative, because maybe only 8 persons or 6 persons or 7 persons that are really showing up to meetings and really actively participating. So really and truly, they might have been registered with 11 or registered with 15, but they operating with 8 or 9. And I challenge the Ministry of Cooperative to please do a research and let us see what the result is saying. I don't know the answer, but we all know some of them closed down because 2 gone, 3 gone, and sometimes the main people that leave are the engine to the thing, because you know a lot of times sometimes people not pulling their weight. That's a big issue in cooperatives. A lot of persons not pulling their weight. So those who realize that they're working too hard and stuff, they leave. And you see it even in religion. You see sometimes a few people leave the church and they break away and they go on from a next church for themselves. But that is another story that needs to be regulated for itself in terms of management, etc. But the point is, so people leave and they go. And the cooperative now kind of just disappear. And these other persons now, they got maybe just from a private business, or they operate as a sole trader, or they go and join up with somebody else. And these are real challenges, when most time you may find 4 persons or 5 persons coming together and they could stick together. And they say too much cooks spoil the broth. And no, let's look at it. As I have read the Cooperative Act back and forth, I mean, I don't have all the details of it, but I've read it through. And the concern would have been raised. And as a matter of fact, I also discussed this with my dear Minister for Cooperative. I discussed that with her on the PS and that rationale. And so what did we realize is that 4 or 5 persons come together, they cannot form a cooperative because they don't reach the requirement. But they're operating as a group. But they want to go and get some funding, but you can't get no funding, you know, because you're not a cooperative, eh? So they ad hocly, maybe, you know, for the interest of good, find these other persons, sign them up so that they could be able to access these funds and to be able to do. And then what happens? By convenience, they go mash up again, because it wasn't of that common thing. No. Why are we so worried about this 5? You know why? Tell you why, you know. Because we feel that we have to have a president, we have to have a treasurer, we have to have a vice something, we have to have a flow member. So the 5 now kind of interfering with that norm that we used to, that if you only have 5, who will be the president, who will be the flow member, who will be the what, and who will be the what. There is nothing saying that we cannot modify the regulations and have a secretary treasurer. Another organization have that.
Yeah.
Then you have a one president or chairman. I don't even need that. You just have a rotating person who facilitates the meeting. And then you don't even need a PRO, pussy. You could be a president PRO, you know, a chairman/PRO. Because remember again, my brother, and he come back to the administrative hub. Who is doing the work? Most of this cooperative we have are what you call kind of workers cooperative. So these people will be producing. Now who is working? That way the hub now will provide support for this group of persons. So I believe that we need to look at the issue of the 5. We're not saying you have to be 5, but we're saying that there can be a minimum of 5. So that even if you was 11 or 20 and you come down to 5, you're not defunct. That is all I'm saying. And what we need to be doing is providing more education and more leadership with the groups and hand holding. But most times we just help facilitate these groups to form, and then we leave them alone. We don't mentor them. We don't give them proper training and leadership and all of those things. And I mean, and some of them said that to me.
Right.
So the cooperative department, and I see the minister and her ministry when they're into what they call awareness. And if you look at the website, every day or 2 days there is information sharing. So it's a good start. But that is just part of the process. Part of the process. So this is why I have this position, and I continue to maintain that position, because I am not about having, oh, you have to be 11. When at the end of the day, our country is suffering because 5 persons cannot access some financing or support, because that is, and it also ties government's hand, because if government want to also provide support, they cannot break the rules and give 5. And then we go say, oh, government helping a friend, and look at this, I mean, they're not even a corporate. And that is all that creates problems. Because I mean, I'm on the ground listening, all these things create problems. So let's help put it right, and let's move it forward.
So apart from that response, which I referenced here, what has been the overall reception within the ambits of the decision makers?
Well, I will tell you 2 things. I will say, I personally had a discussion with the minister, and of course she shared my views on this matter. I mean, I could speak to that. She understands the wisdom of what I'm saying. The question is, how do we act? I know Senator Diali would have also endorsed the sentiments. The question is how do we move forward? And I say, how do we move forward, meaning that it's not because that is my thought process. It doesn't mean that in the morning you're going to say, well, boy, let's go and change, move a motion to change that bill. No, it don't happen like that.
To everything. Yeah, there's a process.
Yeah, you said, so what you may want to do next is to look at it legally and see, what is the impact, what is the adjustments. Then you have some consultations, and you take, because see, at the end of the day, my brother, what we have to be doing as not just legislators, but as individuals in our own countries and in our own life, is how do we adjust and modify things to make it work better for the betterment of a goal. Unless your goal is just to not have anything done, then fine. Look in our lives how we have to make so much adjustments due to the COVID, right? And we may find a lot of cases is restricting, but in the long run, you may discover it's not restrictive, because outside of making those adjustments, you might have 0. So if we never had those tight curfew and lockdown in last year, March, April, today, what I would say, the freedom, quote unquote, that we have right now, 12 o'clock curfew, all of those things, we can still go around places and so on, still being safe. Of course, we keep managing those personal space. We don't ever have it.
So, what about a timeline in terms of what we just spoke to? Do you see any prospects for a timeline to say that by such and such time, by the end of the year, we could begin implementing that, given the challenges that we face and the need as we see it for having those cooperatives in order to enable these income generating projects and programs to be facilitated?
Yeah, because I would say 2 angles. One, I would say that I would say personally, I would say you have to look at the year, within the year. That's one angle. Of course, now reaching across to the government and getting their tone, they may find ways that it can be done quicker. Because government sometimes could get up today and in 3 weeks they pass a law. If they want to pass it. Well, not that they could just pass like that per se, but of course, in the current construct of the majority rule, it's easy, right? But so I'm saying that that is a dialogue I have to continue with minister. I would want to do it in that way. It's not about the senator trying to push a thing and to be a hero to change a law, and it's not about that. It's how do we make the life better? And so I see this as working in a very multi-party approach for the best. We may discover, look, maybe I'm saying 5 physically as an individual, but really and truly, maybe we need to look at 6 or 7. You know what I'm saying there? But we need to start somewhere. And this, I think, we are open to, and I think the ministry is open to. So I would commit that within the year, but not wait till the end of the year to start it. But the conversation already started. I think there's a lot of agitation. So I think what we need to do, brother, is person like yourself need to, let's make it a discussion point. Maybe get other persons from the cooperatives. Let's look at it. Persons who are actually involved in a cooperative, that they can really discuss and let's start, because those discussions do help the government, it help myself, it help the whole legislator and policymakers to challenge the way forward.
Okay, because you see the the individual who had issue, who took you to task, well, who had issues with that proposal. One of the things that the person said, which is what you referenced a while ago, the whole issue of the number of people on the board and the makeup of the executive and so. Because in one of the points that was made, the person says the original charter of the cooperative calls for board members being pulled from the membership. In other words, if you have a 10 member, at least 5 will be asked to serve on the board. Can you imagine a scenario with 7 members, 5 going to the board and just 2 ordinary members? So, but a follow-up question was asked of the individual. So what do you think about in the amendment to the legislation that you make certain adjustments also to the whole issue of the executive, but that a response to that wasn't forthcoming, you know? So it would be interesting to see how that unfolds, and I wish you success with that. There's one area though that we haven't spoken about. We've spoken about your senatorial responsibilities throughout, but you are the manager or of the GCNA, right?
Yeah, correct.
Manager of the GCNA. What can you tell us about the state of things within the GCNA and about during last year? There was a very prominent conversation relating to that partnership between the GCNA and the GCA, bringing them or dissolving both and creating one new entity. What can you tell us as to where that is presently?
Yeah, well, I will speak to you. I have to be very careful how I speak to you in this specific context as the manager, because I don't have that clearance to speak. But I would tell you. But I would tell you in a broad way from the GCNA standpoint. Some of the major focus that we are looking at is how do we increase the production of the nutmeg. That is very important for us, because the production is right now is still about 30% of what the post-Ivan production, pre-Ivan production. So that is very important for the association and the country in terms of looking at the foreign exchange and the impact. So that is very critical. In most recent times, we have been focusing on a series of value-added products that I would say they are within the prototype market testing sort of stage. We have been using the pods to do things like a drink, a nutmeg cooler. We also doing a hot sauce out of that, a sweet and spicy sauce and a seasoning. And we also been using the nutmeg shell to do a potting mix. And of course, we have meat rub, which is a mixture of different spices, including nutmeg, and of course some nutmeg spice teas with different blemishes of not blemishes but flavors of soursop and moringa, barbande, different. So this has been a trust that we have embarked on within the last year. So you're
saying, without continuing, so you're saying that you're having different blends of different herbs and spices.
In a nutmeg spice tea, nutmeg spice tea, nutmeg spice tea. So this is a series of products, about 8 or 9 products that we have developed, and they are in the market space right now locally. And also we have some, I know even Labby Market very soon is going to have some. That's Mr. Tucky out in New York there. I know he has recently had some orders. And so this is something that we have been working on over the last while. So that is from that angle in terms of the state of affairs. Of course, on the matter of which you're speaking about, that whole merging situation, that is a matter of the government initiating the merger discussion among the associations. That matter, I would say, has been a sort of bit on the lull in the past few months. So we have to look forward to see what is the government's next direction in terms of reactivating those discussions. That we can expect to happen, I would say, soon. In terms of the relevance and if it's a good thing or a bad thing and all of those things, I have academic explanations, but in terms of the true, should we merge or not to merge, in terms of a public statement, or even a private statement, I tend to have no view on this matter and treat this from a purely professional standpoint in the context of when and such dialogue and discussion happen at a practical level, we look at it as it hits the road and see what is in the best interest of everybody. I think that at the end of the day. So whenever that moment is, save and, am I wrong in different ways, we look at it, because at the end of the day, whatever we do, even in this discussion we have in here, we must always remember it must be for the good of the country and the good of the people, the good not only of today, but the good into the future. And as the Chinese proverb says, I think it says, what starts well will always ends well. So, we are with the next direction on this matter. But outside of that, the farmers understand the charge in terms of the need to be getting the production back. The Ministry of Agriculture has also been collaborating in that trust to increase the production by way of propagations and so on. But of course, as I mentioned, the issue of road access is very important. The issue of abandoned lands where farmers, some of persons would have gone away, they don't go back and work the land because they couldn't get into the land, or maybe they had other immediate priorities because they didn't have the amount of money to start back production. So there are a series of action, and people, can go about and have all explanation for not just for that, but a lot of things. But a lot of these things, remember, are individuals, private individuals who own their own enterprise, and they will decide to make a decision. There are some persons who never have started back their business after COVID. You will say, why they don't start it back? Why they don't go and start it back? It's a private enterprise. A man land is his private enterprise. He may decide maybe he went into fishing, or he decided to buy a bus, or maybe he traveled, But what we need to do, though, at the end of the day, is how do we reach out to these individuals and see what assistance, if they are interested, maybe if there are other persons who might be interested in leveraging that. Another important area that we also embarking on from the nutmeg end is the issue of the training of some youths with the support of the UK government. All right, we have this project. It's referred to as the Sky project. I think it's Skill for Youth Enhancement something. I can't remember the last part. Right, and in collaboration with the St. Andrews Development Organization and the GCNA, we have been able to have this project and the TAMCC. So we will start off with training about 30 young persons to the CBQ level 2 in nutmeg production. So they're not just going to learn how to produce nutmeg, but they are going to have a certificate that is a valid certificate from a national training agency. And this is an initiative that we really been working on for over the last year. And we're very happy that the farmers have opportunity, because the farmers speak a lot about, we need to get the young people, Here is an initiative that the association has embarked on, and we look forward for their support and for the youngsters' support in really participating. It's for 9 months, 2 of which would be an internship where they actually need to be physically on a farm, working with the farmers. And the CVQ, as you would know, is a very practical-oriented class for the unemployed, unemployed. Would be about 4 days a week, I think it is, between 8 and 1, thereabout. So that also is part of the trust that we engage in at the association level that I could speak about to you at this point.
Okay. Finally, before you leave, because you, you know, it's interesting, you know, when we arranged for you to come here, you did ask me how much time, you know, we have on the program.
I was sent a bill. Yeah, my bill rate is well, that's okay. That's okay because you know since in January we've been trying to call my tell you no, let me. Yeah.
Anyway, you can't go without me asking that. Now, back in say 2014 or thereabout, CARICOM established a commission to look at a particular matter.
Okay.
2 years ago, well, it's going into 3 years now, the report was presented to CARICOM. And it has to do with the whole issue of cannabis and its byproducts, and the issue of what are CARICOM governments to do on that issue. A report was presented, as I said, in 2018. We've seen other countries, other CARICOM states, they've had consultations, they've passed legislations and whatever. That has only just begun to take root in Grenada. In fact, there was a roundtable session that was spearheaded by civil society, and I believe with great input from the Conference of Churches, led by the Catholic Church. The bishop was very much involved in that. What is your take on that as the Minister for Agriculture and the Fisheries?
Senator, make sure you say Senator.
As the Senator, sorry.
As
the Senator, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. You know, that's okay. I say that because sometimes people are saying, look, hear what they say, Okay, my response to this is in a few ways. I was supposed to attend that session, and I had another urgent matter, so I couldn't attend it, that virtual meeting. It's a pity. I really sorry I didn't make it. However, Grenada, and I want to take you from where you stopped, that we seems to be lit. As someone said to me, is that Grenada missed the boat and its marijuana opportunity already. And maybe it's not that we lose the boat, maybe we wanted to lose the boat so we come late. So the place full up already. I don't know. However, I want to make a few statements on that before I even say a position. One, is my understanding that this marijuana industry business is about not I take it to spliff in the pocket and go down Grenville and bump around smoking to spliff. And you see, I say these things because we have to talk the right language properly, and let people understand that I don't see this legislation and support for marijuana as saying I could take to marijuana and I could go and sit down by the marketing Grenville and puff to spliff. It's not that. It's not that at all. It's about how do we add value to marijuana. That's the first thing I understand. It's not about just pulling up spliff in our wrappers and sell it. It's adding value. So if you could add the value, maybe fine. You could take your thing and you could make the cannabis oil and you could do it in your back office, wherever you do it, and you have it just like you have incense oil and so on. Maybe you may get away with that because you're adding value. That's the first thing. And you're adding value to a herb that has been proven based on different scientific research to have certain medicinal properties. Since a young boy, I know they say it's good for the eyesight and it's good for this and it's good for that. So as with all herbs, and I believe those medication things, but as anything else, brother, we have to understand that if you take it too much, you could become addicted. It's just like any drugs. painkillers too much, you get addicted. I raising those to because we need to understand the context of discussion.
Even
yeah?
food. Even food,
you get addicted. Yeah, some people like, yes, exactly. So I want that to be clear. So when we speak about this opening up of this industry, if you want to call it that, is not also meaning that in my backyard I could go and plant 20 trees, plant a half acre, and I see this as you getting a license to produce, you get a permit. That I have a permit to produce 5 acres of marijuana, and it will be sold to this unit, and they may even have a cooperative. There might be a cooperative, or there might be contracts by different individuals that they supply in that way, and you know how much trees you plant, and all of those things are logged, and there is some government authority, just like you have the health inspector inspecting the your place to see if health and facility is okay and so on. You have persons monitoring those things that you don't off-sell and so on. And this goes into a space where it's processed and all of those things. That is how I see this. And so if there is a investor, for example, because I don't know, even a diaspora person who knows and has the technology and has the market connection for the various end products, I don't see why that should not be facilitated.
Do you think that we are at the stage where we can say we can go to bring legislation before Parliament, say within the next month or so?
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't even, I trust we don't even get there like that. Because I know there was discussion one way, there might be discussion, there might be cabinet committees. Even if there is a draft legislation, of course it can be referred to, you know, you take maybe St. Vincent or the legislation and kind of look at it. But it means that we need to make those drafts available to the public. Now, yes, civil society is doing one part, and government could say in coordination, yes, civil society is doing. But but the government also has a personal responsibility to communicate its own action and intention and education to the public also. All civil society is doing is helping.
Because that's a CARICOM initiative.
Yeah, so I hope that government
and it's government that has the seat at CARICOM.
Right, exactly. Well, I like how you put it. So government must not lose sight to keep that education, because in the budget, and it's something that I would say it's sort of, I didn't go into it. We have $10,000 allocated in the budget for consultation and marijuana. I found that very frivolous figure. I think the much more money would be needed unless.
What did you say?
$10,000. If you look at the budget, you'll see that agriculture budget. $10,000. That is nothing. So I guess though they have to find money from other places to stage other consultation. But I would say, to me, in a broad way, I think that within a year that could happen, because marijuana is not something new to us. We grew up with that. I mean, since I was a boy, I know about marijuana, right? So it's not something new to us. There's a lot of debate of the health issues. We have a lot of health specialists in the country. So I think the issue is how do we, because we mustn't lose sight. And maybe that is the debate, to me, may spend more about whether you charge a man for 1 spliff or 2 spliffs in the pocket than the business part of it. And we must not lose sight of that. Otherwise, we have to find a different model. You know, you have to find a different model. Maybe you have to have a gated community. And these days, with all sort of greenhouse technologies and all this stuff, you may realize they could grow this thing anyway, not necessarily in a particular place. And so on. So yeah, so I don't have a problem with that. But I think whilst we move in with that, we have to see how does the country benefit. Would the country benefit through taxes from export of this? Would there be tax-free holidays for these persons? At the end of the day, we create jobs in maybe building those things. But when you net it out at the end of the day, we end up in a minus sustainability, because these people continue ripping and selling, getting all the profits, and Grenada get nothing. So there must be some proper licensing regime that brings this money in, and then we also have to then use some of this money from the licensing for the greater good. How do we use it to do alcoholic and drug addiction? How to improve care for persons mentally challenged, and all of this kind of other social good, and not necessarily this money go back into a general consolidated funds, and then at risk individuals still become so. So those are some of my initial concerns in how this thing have to be done.
It has to be a well-regulated framework. So, well, at this point in time, I'm going to let you off at this.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Any final words as we close for this evening?
Yes, I will say I thank you so much. I know I resisted you since in January when you see this guy is a real madman. But I just thought at the time it wasn't really the best time, and I say, look, let's do it in March. And I nearly call you again and say, boy, let's put this off again. But I think I owe it to the individuals, my stakeholders, my constituents. I owe it to them to be able to continue to agitate and to share that vision and interest for them, and also in your particular space to have a connection with the diaspora through which they can really understand where we're coming from, and of course to able to attract more ideas, suggestions, input from others, which can help us to develop. Of course, I say I'm one individual in the space of many things, an important pillar in this country. So in whatever ways that I can be provided help, assistance, support, I would greatly appreciate it, so that we can make life better for my constituents. So I would say I'm open, for a future discussion. That to diaspora fund thing, we could look at it. I will be available. And of course, maybe next 2 months or so, we could meet again and chat, and maybe I could get one of my fisher folks or farmer folks or livestock folk to join, because as I have committed, it's not about my voice, but the voice of my others need to be heard. And so from time to time, I would ensure that they are part of this dialogue, because it's for them and it's not for me. I'm just the voice of the cause.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Senator, for coming through as you did. And I can tell you that, I doesn't have a problem, putting things off for down the road is when the person can make it. Mm-hmm. Because I am not the expert on the issue. I do not have the answers. I bring the people who have the answers to the questions that people are asking. So it was a pleasure having you, and I look forward to having you. I look forward to continuing our exchanges outside of this forum, and as we have done. You have enabled the leader of the poultry entity to be here. He has been here. The gentleman, Mr. Augustine.
Mr. Philip.
No. I'm speaking about the beekeeper.
Oh yeah, Mr. Augustine Jeffrey.
Mr. Jeffrey.
Right.
Augustine,
Yes. Okay.
He has already committed.
Nice. Perfect. Perfect. So I think I need to get your fisher folks next. I think we need to get a fisher folk.
But he hasn't been here as yet. He had to reschedule.
Oh, okay.
He had to reschedule, so I haven't had him as yet. Yeah. So,
okay, good.
So thank you once again, and as I said, we look forward to having you. This is where we put a wrap on this afternoon's comfort zone, and remember, we'll be back with you at 8 p.m. this evening on the Talking Point. Okay, that's John Calliste's Talking Point program. We'll be back with you, and that's it for the 33rd edition of the Comfort Zone. Thank you to those who joined us, and please always remember to like and share it and let people know what's happening on Gem FM, because as Gem FM motto says, education is liberation. You get educated when you come to this station.
Correct.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye. Yeah. Okay, good. John, take care.
Yeah.
All the best. Good.
Okay.
Take care.
Okay, Genesis is all yours.
Going full of spices and cool water, bright sunshine, silvery drops falling gently. I must go back. I must go back. My little island is calling me. I saw the valley so fresh and green. Children play, what a beautiful scene. As a mom and dad, my neighbors, brother and sister, you know, I feel so lonely, but I don't want them to know this, right? When I think of the happiness, peace and love that still exists, then I knew I must return to my island in the sun, heavenly blessed place. I